Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the official podcast called Jared Squared. I'm Jared.
I'm Jared. Let's rock and roll, Coach. What's up first? We got, a little bit of AI action?
All right, so here's the topics. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about the SEC. We're going to talk about probably why you would trademark your mark. What is a mark? And what if your name is Mark? What else are we going to talk about? Probably crypto. We almost hit an all-time high again.
Yeah, I think we're pushing at it. I think we're thrusting and pushing right towards that all-time high. I think we're going to hit the climax any second now.
So I'll say if we want to start with crypto, because that's probably a good spot to start, I bought a bunch of Solana when it was 159 or 160, which was maybe a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And then we had the scare of the war, and that pushed everything all the way down to maybe 140 something for Solana, which was, I was down bad at that point.
Oh, Coach,
and then
you were down.
It was bad. And now last night, I believe it was last night, I sold everything I bought at 159 or 160. I sold it at 169, and I'm gonna buy back in shortly. I think my guess is that the all-time high is gonna be somewhere around the election. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, the election, right after the election. I mean, that is exactly how I kind of got into it, because, I think that there's a good chance that a lot of people are going to see this as a lot of global instability, one way or the other. If they think that the dictator is going to start executing people, I think that.
Speaking of the election, did you see Trump worked at a McDonald's?
Yeah, dude, and I think he did a lot better than Kamala ever did, right?
Well, I think, and I don't know what's substantiated and what's not, but my understanding is that McDonald's doesn't have any records of her working at McDonald's, even though she said she worked at McDonald's, which is interesting. And then Trump was like, well, you know what? I'm actually going to work at McDonald's longer than she did. And he said, I've officially worked longer than her after 15 minutes, which is quite funny. It looked fun. I mean, it looked like he had a good time. He actually fried fries. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, dude, he's great at these public appearances, and they take pictures. He's probably throwing French fries to people.
Yeah, he answered. Took orders, answered the window. Wow. And actually served fries, and actually fried fries, which I thought was the most exciting part.
Yeah, well, he doesn't fire anybody when he's doing that. That's what I always like to see him do, is fire people.
He seemed really happy.
Bring him.
He seemed happy. I thought it was a great publicity stunt. We should also talk about the Doge. So Elon Musk is going to be, apparently, if elected, the Director of Government Efficiency, a.k.a. the Doge. So what does that do to Doge prices?
What? Oh, I see what he's done. He's got him a little play on words, or play on, Doge. He's referring to, I guess, the old, the Venetian, the mayor of Venice would be called the Doge.
The Doge, yep. The Director of Government Efficiency. I thought that was a great name. I thought the publicity stunt was really smart. And I also think that if Trump wins, we'll have probably an all-time high, and maybe 80, 90, could be 100K. I mean, I'm not a TA type of person. I think no matter who wins, though, we'll have an increase. I think Trump will have a quick increase, meaning that night, if he wins, I think it'll shoot quite high, and then sort of level out. Now, if Kamala wins, I think it'll be a slow grind up, but I think, this year, maybe early next year, we'll hit a new all-time high. That would be my guess. I don't know how high it goes, but
yeah, she will definitely try to keep it as low as she can. Yeah. She does not want people to engage in anything that they can better their lives.
Well, and she almost went on the Bitcoin talk circuit with Trump. It was a few months ago, and I really thought she was going to show up. I think everybody did. She didn't show up, and then we had SEC bringing claims against Cumberland, against Consensus, against multiple crypto companies. Very recently, and to me, if I was Senator Harris, I think I would say, hey, Gensler, election's coming up. Take it easy on the crypto people for a couple months. We'll crush them after if I win, just to make sure you encapsulate the crypto vote. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I think the only way she does something like that is if it's made public, and then at that point it becomes something that she did that's public, and it doesn't wind up. There's nothing she can do, I think, that's right at this point. I mean, I think she can't do anything right. Appearing for these interviews, it's a joke. I mean, an absolute joke. She cannot answer a question.
Yeah, well, we're not going to get a debate, that's for sure. Another one. I'm excited. There's a few Harris Walt signs in my neighborhood, which is a little surprising, and I'm glad to see it. And no, I did not rip them out of the ground and smash them. I'm glad that people have a different opinion than me. I think that is something that sort of makes the world a better place, as long as we don't have violence, especially towards the signs. Let's not destroy signs. I did see a bunch of videos of Trump signs being destroyed. I mean, I guess that happens every year, but here at the Jared Squared podcast, we do not condone destroying signs unless you're at a gun range, right?
Yeah, I mean, don't shoot a sign. We want you to shoot the target.
Well, yeah, but you can set up a sign as a target.
Certainly.
So if you don't like, a specific public figure, they probably sell a picture of that public figure as a target, and you can buy it. I mean, that's everywhere has that.
Oh, you can get that and put it in that's pretty wild, dude.
Yeah. Now I'm wondering if that violates any law where you're inciting violence. I doubt it.
I feel like it does,
But it could. I mean, it's an interesting question.
It's hard for me to tell when people are inciting violence because I really don't know what it looks like anymore. I mean, they're telling you, oh, this is hate speech, that.
Yeah.
Dude.
Or misinformation.
What? Yeah.
All right, you got to get in the middle here. Right there. All right, we're good. But what is misinformation? Do you know?
Misinformation is simply false information, but it's deliberately false to try to manipulate someone into having a certain reaction. For example, if in fact there was a riot outside of the state capitol here in Louisiana, and if nobody burned effigies of Huey Long, but you put out a social media post or whatever it is saying that they're burning effigies of Huey Long out there. Well, that's misinformation intended to get a rise out of someone. That's what that is.
Yeah. So what if you don't know the answer, but you pretend you know the answer, and you may be right, you may be wrong? Is that misinformation? Or because it may not be deliberate. You just may say he's being burned in effigy because somebody told you, but maybe you just didn't say that somebody told you. You're just saying, oh, they're burning him in effigy out there. What do we do? I wonder if that's misinformation.
Well, it's the same. It winds up having the same effect,
right?
But then the question comes down to the speaker. Did the purveyor of this information know that it was fake? And then I don't know. I mean, I think that people don't need that. They don't need all that access to each other. Where I can give my opinion, especially when it's half-ass baked on whatever it is. Like, I don't fucking know all the facts.
So I just looked it up on ChatGPT, and this is again ChatGPT's definition, which to me, I think in the next few years we're going to see this become the new Google. I don't know if ChatGPT or OpenAI is going to be the one, but I think it'll start being that. Google's probably scared about that, but it says misinformation is the spread of false, inaccurate, or misleading information, regardless of intent to deceive, which is interesting. So they're saying, and like you said, the outcome's the same, so it doesn't matter. So that's interesting. So I have a question for you. Is putting Alabama in the top 10 misinformation?
Well, no, if they're actually in the top 10, then
Okay.
it's not misinformation. Now,
Should they be in the top 10?
they should not be in the top 10. Why are they in the top 10 still? Are they in
Tell
there
tell
today?
everybody why they shouldn't be in the top 10. This is kind of exciting for me.
Well, I will give you two big reasons. Number one was a loss a couple weeks ago to lowly Vanderbilt. Now, nobody loses to
Who
Vanderbilt.
loses to Vanderbilt?
Nobody. You always want to play Vanderbilt. It's
Yeah.
like Saban says, you always want to play Vanderbilt till you don't. And I mean, that's
That's
when
a
they
good
beat.
quote.
And when they beat you, look, think about it. Vanderbilt, I've known people, maybe one or two people that have been to Vanderbilt. Very smart people, very nice people, and
It's a good school.
It's a great school.
Yeah.
It's just not a place.
It's a good
don't
football
win-
team. It's just not a great football team.
This year, there's the best team they've had in years.
This is a great football
This is
team.
a great Vanderbilt football team. You've got a
Yeah.
lot to be excited about in Vanderbilt this year.
Yeah, Vandy, props. Props to you.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Taking down a giant, really.
Yeah, Vandy did that, and then they lost to Tennessee this weekend, and that is just
Which one stings more? I think Tennessee stings more, honestly.
it may sting more. Both schools are from Tennessee, the state, but when you losing to Vanderbilt is like I don't even know.
Well, and then there's the Georgia beating Texas. Now, there's a kid. I don't know if you saw the picture of the kid who's like the meme for this week. He had the most amazing hair I've ever seen. It was about 3/4 of the picture was his hair, but it wasn't purposefully large hair. It was just sort of, man, we're going to have to put that, and I will find it right now and show you, and you will be amazed by this man's hair.
Yeah. Speaking of hair and pictures, what about that Drew Brees Hall of Fame picture?
Ooh.
I mean, he looked like you said it. He looked like Eli.
So we were at the game. Let's give him the story, the full story.
Well, sure. We
And I'll
went up to
find the hair
game.
in the meantime.
Yeah, we go to the game. It's versus Denver. Sean Payton's coming back to Louisiana for the first time to face the Saints. And, I mean, we got our tail handed to us. We didn't have a shot once the game was over after the coin toss. It was done. Like, you lose the coin toss, game over. Everybody could have gone home. They're putting Drew Brees in the halftime. They're putting him into the Saints Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that was a great
Which was,
moment.
great. It's important. I mean, look, Drew Brees is the greatest quarterback of all time, arguably. And, definitely the damn finest quarterback I've ever got a chance to see that many times. I mean, come on. So, anyway, he's going in there. They got a picture of him, right? And they got like a picture, and you look at it, and he's got a little smile on his face and whatever. And damn, you're looking and looking. The guy looks familiar. Doesn't look anything like Drew Brees. Look at it long enough, it looked just like Eli Manning.
It was a wonderful moment. Drew comes out. He gives a very short speech because it's halftime, and he gave the perfect amount of speech. I mean, it was like maybe 2 minutes or less. Most of the speech was him doing his wonderful chant that he had during the Super Bowl. The whole stadium did it back. It was a great moment. They revealed his painting of him, his portrait, and I was like, Eli Manning. It looked just like Eli Manning to me. It was crazy. All right, so I want your genuine reaction when I show you the picture of the Texas bro that was turned into a meme. Just look at that hair.
Oh, wow, dude. He is like,
Wow.
dude, that's like, he's got cooler hair than like Sam Malone had on fucking Cheers back then, dude.
That is exactly it. It's Sam Malone hair if Sam Malone's hair was triple the amount of hair that Sam Malone had.
Yeah.
This kid is a perfect meme. He looks like a stereotypical Texas student just staring at the camera in awe that they got absolutely bodied by Georgia because they were 6-0, and they were like, "We own the SEC. This is our first year in the SEC, and we own you guys. Kiss my horns." And Georgia was like, "No, let me show you how it's done," and walloped Texas into submission. And I mean, Georgia is pretty fairly dominant, I think.
Oh,
wouldn't you agree?
they are dominant. They got all the horses. They got the guys running in the right spots, and they're hey, you got a lot of great players at Texas, but they haven't been out in that pen like those dudes at Georgia.
Now,
Shit.
should we talk about? I love calling them PSU, but Penn State, who's now ranked third. What are they? Why are they screaming? So Georgia, ranked 2 now with 1 loss, has 2 votes for number 1. Oregon, which if you like Nikes, I think the Oregon What the Ducks are the most recent shoes that came out. They're pretty cool. Oregon's undefeated at 7-0. Unfortunately, they're not a powerhouse division like the SEC, who I believe or a conference, who is just, to me, really dominant and has been for the last couple decades. But Georgia at number 2, I think, they'll round out. If they win out, I think would obviously play for the championship based on the how the playoffs go. But good old LSU is ranked 8th, which I think that's a good spot. It's a fairly decent position. They've got quite a lot of work to do, but at least they only have 1 loss. So what do you think? What do you think about? Here's the top 25. I'll show you just so you have it in front of you. Anything shocking that pops out? Anything that we need to talk about?
PSU, I mean, they have really turned it around since the days of Sandusky and Joe Pa and all that. I mean, they've got it going on at 6-0, dude. OSU, I mean, hey, man, I'd love to play Ohio State in the SEC.
Be awesome.
Oregon. Now, come on. If y'all were in the SEC, you would not last. You would never be 7-0. I'll tell you that much right now.
It's really hard to go undefeated in the SEC.
Yeah, you got to be from a special state. The state of Washington State, you're not entitled to no championship.
I like it. No, that's good.
Georgia, Mississippi, good states. Louisiana, we're entitled to that. You are not.
Oregon or Washington, right?
Yeah, Oregon.
Washington. Now, do you think PSU hates being called
what state
PSU?
is Washington in? Oregon.
Oregon's in Oregon.
It's in Oregon? Is that its own state?
Yeah.
Oregon's a state? Yeah. No, it's not.
It's like, you could call it a city.
It's a city.
But they have Portland.
Portland.
Yeah, it's a city in Oregon. Oregon?
Oregon.
All right, all of you listeners out there who are in Oregon, forgive Jared and his geographical faux pas. I know you're not in Washington. You are indeed in your own state. I mean, I've actually, okay.
I don't like those people up there.
There are 5 states I have not been to. Oregon is one of them. I'll give you the list if you want. Alaska, Oregon, Idaho. This one's going to shock you.
That's a great joke.
Arizona.
Yeah, really, Arizona. You never been there? I figure you look like a guy that would spend a lot of time there.
I've never been to Arizona. Wait, hold on. Time out. I think I'm down to 4 because I recently. Oh, I'm sorry, Montana. I was supposed to go to Montana and didn't. That's the 5th one. It was supposed to be off my list, but it's still on my list. So I have 5. I have 5 states left to go. What about you? How many states have you been to?
I've been to most of them, but
have you been to 45? Why not?
I've never been to Oklahoma.
Really?
That sucks. I wish I'd been to Oklahoma. I've been wanting to go there for years.
My dog is from Oklahoma.
I mean, I've wanted to visit Texarkana since I was a baby. How about you? You never wanted to go there?
I've been, so no.
How cool is it?
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's okay.
Is it as cool as it sounds like in Smokey and the Bandit? They're talking about Texarkana. I mean, doesn't that sound?
No offense to Texarkana, it's not something where you would be like, we should have a trip to Texarkana. To me, you should have a trip to Arizona. I mean, I've been over Arizona. I've been in Arizona airspace. I have seen Arizona from the sky, but I've never physically put my foot on Arizona soil. I've been around Arizona, but not in Arizona. Strange, I know.
I like Arizona and I like Texas.
I've been to Texas.
I'm very fond of Texas.
I've lived in Texas. I like Texas. I am licensed in Texas. So what's our next topic? Did we say intellectual property? Trademarks?
Yeah, bro.
So I want everyone to know that this is not legal advice, and we are probably not your lawyers, but we could be if you hired us. Then we would be able to give you legal advice, and that legal advice likely wouldn't be on a podcast. So with that sort of disclaimer, I want to say that as soon as you are in commerce with a service or a product, and your product has a name, aka a brand or a tagline, you have a trademark. You are officially working under a trademark. So if you start Jared's T-shirt company and you start advertising that T-shirt company and you sell some T-shirts, you are physically in commerce. You are actually working under the trademark name Jared's T-shirts. Now, why would you register? You want to register because it allows for enforcement across the entire country. Now, I'm talking about registering with the USPTO, which is the United States Patent Trademark Office, federal government agency that handles trademarks. So I want you guys to remember that a trademark is a brand, like Coca-Cola. We're talking about a brand name. We're not talking about a clip of, something that could be copyrighted. It's not written. It could be written, tagline, but it is the brand that represents the product or service that you're using. So recently, Jared and I created Quantum Counsel, LLC, which is our new law firm. So now on this podcast, we're officially advertising Quantum Counsel. I don't know that we have our first client yet, but we will shortly. At that point, we have a trademark for the name Quantum Counsel, and we have our logo. You can also trademark your logo. So my suggestion is if you have a brand that you think could be popular and that you want to protect, you should register, and we can do that for you. And it's not complicated. It is a lot of work, and it is a very long time frame. Last I looked, it was maybe 12 to 14 months to get a trademark. What do you think about that? Do you think our government is efficient if you file a trademark online and 14 months later you get it registered?
I mean, I think that they're as efficient as they're ever going to be. Yeah, I think that you better register that shit.
That's a good idea. Register. That's good, solid, non-legal advice. Register that shit. I think if you register, you will be happier. You will have a more productive life, and you may, in fact, become fertile if you register your trademark. Those are my thoughts on that. You should do it. I'm kidding. You won't become fertile, and you certainly won't be happier. But you will have a better protection if someone in, say, Ohio is using Quantum Counsel, and we were first, and now we registered it. We have an argument that we're a nationwide company, and we deserve protections nationwide. So we are registering our trademark. So there you go. That's, in a nutshell, intellectual property law based on the Lanham Act. Look it up. If you have questions, we can certainly go more in depth and give you play-by-play for your trademark in your location and whether you should or shouldn't trademark it. But, let us know. That's what we do. It'll be fun. Be a good conversation. What do you think, Jared? What do you want to talk about next? The FTC. Oh, I know what we can talk about.
The Federal Trade Commission?
Yeah. Okay. All right, next topic we want to talk about is something that I thought was quite interesting. So the FTC just filed a notice of appeal last week for the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit from a Texas district court, which means that this appeal will be handled in New Orleans at the Minor Wisdom Court, right in Lafayette Square, or right next to Lafayette Square. The FTC decided to ban non-compete clauses nationwide. Yeah. So the lawsuit began in April. The FTC filed a final rule. It barred employers nationwide from entering into non-competes, and any non-compete that was entered into before September 4th, 2024, had to be rescinded.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that is required them to rescind existing non-competes. So if you had a non-compete, you had until September 4th, 2024, to rescind that non-compete. And they said it was an unfair method of competition. It violated Section 5 of the FTC Act. And it stated that the only exceptions were like senior executives, like very highly compensated people, or something that was entered into within the bounds of a bona fide sale of a business. So if you were selling your business, you could have a non-compete. And any non-compete that was indeed enforced, where the cause of action accrued before the effective date of the ruling, those would be allowed. But if there was one sitting there that hadn't been accrued yet, and the enforcement action hasn't been filed, then you had to rescind it. So there was a company called Ryan LLC, which did tax and software in Dallas. They were just the entity that they decided, the Chamber of Commerce decided to use. They filed emergency motions, and then they argued that the agency acted beyond its scope of authority. Obviously, they ruled. They said that the rule was arbitrary and capricious. We've talked about that many times on this podcast. And on July 3rd, the United States District Court for the Northern District of Texas granted those motions, temporarily blocked the rule, and then the plaintiffs then filed a motion to strike down the rule permanently. And then, obviously, the FTC filed a counter motion to declare the rule valid. The Texas federal court struck down the nationwide ban. And then it found that the FTC indeed overstepped its authority. The rule was indeed arbitrary and capricious. And then the Section 6G of the FTC Act did not expressly grant the authority to promulgate such a rule, and that it was overbroad. It violated its own rulemaking power. It expanded it, unconstitutionally. And now, interestingly, on this exact podcast, we talked about Chevron and Loper Bright. So in light of that, the FTC's ruling that they had all this power, I think, has a good chance of being completely wiped out by the Fifth Circuit.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, it's an interest. This is like a huge sort of rule to get rid of non-competes, which have been around forever.
Oh, to come in and make that law. First of all, it comes out and it's in violation of the contracts clause.
I think it's definitely it's interesting.
For one thing, and it's overreach. I mean, look, there are a lot of situations when non-compete clauses should be struck down immediately. Like, for example, Ochsner Hospitals here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Every doctor has a very strict non-compete clause. You don't work for them when you leave. You got to go somewhere else, probably another country, as strict as that thing is. I mean, it's serious. It's hard out here.
I've run across non-competes multiple times, drafted them. I've argued that they weren't valid. I've been on sort of both sides of it. I think for some people, it's hard. And I think if you have a job that doesn't make a lot of money, meaning, say below $100,000 or whatever limit we want to put on it, I don't know that you should have a non-compete, quite honestly. So to me, I would be thinking, like, let's say we hired a paralegal, and let's say we paid that paralegal $60,000 a year. And let's say we didn't work out with that paralegal, they wanted to leave, and we made them sign a non-compete. I don't know that it's fair that they couldn't go to my competition down the street and work for them. They should be able to.
It's definitely not fair, and it's definitely that's pushing. I mean, that's definitely what it's not supposed to be used for. But
yeah,
I mean, like,
I agree.
But how do you have how do you set up a rule? Like, I mean, do you set it up with, like, how much money is that issue?
Well, that's the next part of the question. It's like, okay, so maybe that isn't fair, but the actual question is, does the FTC have the right to make that rule just nationwide to ban it without congressional intent and congressional power to specifically get rid of non-competes? I don't think so.
Under Loper, no.
I think
under
that's a
the old
violation.
law, yes. Chevron, it would be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, they get past a lot of BS by going under Chevron, but now that that's knocked out, they've got to look at this whole thing, and it's not going to work out. They used to be able to say, "Whoa, that's a reasonable interpretation." Can't do it.
That's an interesting question. That's an interesting thought, but I think it's not fair, and maybe there should be a law, but I think Congress needs a rule on that to vote to allow the FTC to make that law if it's a non-compete ban nationwide, just getting rid of that sort of institution in a way of non-competes. But I don't know, but maybe a doctor, maybe that's okay to have a non-compete. If you're an owner, I don't know. I'm sort of torn on it. I'm really sort of real big on letting people do what they want. And if two people enter into a contract, whether it's fair or not, then it should be upheld. But at the same time, a lot of times companies will have a lot of leverage over workers because they need the job. And, deep in my heart, I'm probably a liberal in this instance where I think it's not fair and it really honestly shouldn't exist. Even though my overarching feeling is that if two people enter into a contract, no matter how stupid it is, they're adults, they should have thought about it, and if they agree to it, it should be upheld. I don't know. That's an interesting, deeply thinking about that, I realized how sometimes all of us are moderate in different ways.
Well, yeah, I mean, is it a deeply adhesionary contract? You have to, I mean, I think that just having them be able to go through and however they want it to work out, well, that's not going to work out. Unfettered, fucking non-compete clauses. I mean,
that's what we have. I think we do have non-fettered, just sort of everywhere. Their non-competes are in every industry.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a limit of 5 years, 3 years, or something like that in Louisiana.
Yeah, it's 2 years here in Louisiana, and it's got to be a specific parish by parish list. So if you're in Louisiana, well, at this point, I think they're back on the table. But if you're in Louisiana, you can only go for 2 years, and it has to be a specific parish that the business is currently operating in, or at the time that they were employed, and it has to be listed very specifically by a geographic region, by parish. So, by the way, for all of you listening out there, we have parishes and not counties. They are the same, just a different name. So you want to make sure it's crafted well. Each state would have their own rule. And we'll see what will happen here in New Orleans. That's going to be an interesting Fifth Circuit ruling that'll probably come out early next year. And it'll be nice to see what happens. But I realized at this very moment that I am not in favor of non-competes at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it depends on the application. I mean, like you said, on this one, they've got a situation. They wrote it up. When they wrote up this ban, it was those non-compete clauses reached when selling a business are still held up.
Those are held up. That's right. So if you own a business, the new purchaser comes in and says, look, I don't want you to operate the same type of business for, say, 2 years. To me, that's reasonable. I have no problem with that, and I think that's a great use of it. I almost think there should be a limit of, if you make less than $250,000, you shouldn't have one. That's just kind of the way I think about it. I don't know. And I didn't realize really till this moment how much I really disfavor the institution of non-compete clauses. However, the institution of two people being able to enter into a contract and not have that thrown out by government overreach like the FTC, I think is even more important. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Definitely way more important.
And Loper Bright, I mean, we talked about that. Loper Bright is going to be a part of this.
Government overreach is dangerous at all times.
Yeah, more dangerous than a non-compete clause.
Much more dangerous than that.
Yeah. So that, I don't know. I think the non-competes may be on their last leg.
Non-compete clauses are crappy and they're terrible. I'm down on them as a whole, just like I'm down on private prisons.
Ooh.
Private prisons, and the reason I bring up private prisons is because we have a law that did it go into effect about
August 1st.
So as of August 1st, they're going to eliminate good time, getting parole and time off of your sentence for good behavior for people doing time in our Louisiana penal institutions here.
I wonder if that is to keep people in prison longer to make more money for what you're talking about, the private prisons. What do you think?
I think that you've got a situation where you're talking about public prisons. I mean, there already is some financial incentive for the sheriffs of whatever given parish you're talking about to keep people overnight, whatever it is. It's how many people they kept for how many nights. They get money assigned, I don't know, delegated to them, whatever it is. But so there's already that. Now, if you mix in that there's a private prison system, then you create, somebody's getting paid by the government. So they're still paying. The government is still paying. The taxpayers are still paying. They're paying a private company to run a prison. They're paying you to do it at a profit. So guess what? It creates a demand for prisoners. You've got to fill... if you've got a prison but nobody in it, you're not making any money. You're losing money, hemorrhaging money. You've got to put people in the jail. And one way to keep them in there is to eliminate the possibility that they can get out on parole. So in doing so, though, look at it from the perspective of the jailer, fellow that works in there, the people running it. I mean, there is no, if you take away the possibility of parole, if you take away the possibility of getting anything off of your sentence, what does it benefit a man to behave while he's in prison? He doesn't care. She doesn't care.
Yeah, I think there are, according to some information I'm looking up real quick, there are 3 private prisons here in Louisiana: Allen Correctional, Wynn Correctional, and Richwood Correctional. And the new law, I think, so we do criminal law here at the Bradley Law Firm, and I think what will happen and what is happening is that normally you used to know that if someone was getting a year sentence, that they have good time, they would get out, say, somewhere between 6 and 8 months on that year. Now, I think what you do is that they will be in there for the entire time. So now you maybe would give a 6-month sentence rather than a year sentence. So I think what's going to happen is on the district court level, we will start lowering the sentences, knowing that there's not going to be a chance for parole and that you need to sort of preemptively change it. So at the end of the day, I don't know that it'll change much as long as the judges, the DAs, and the private attorneys and the public defenders all are on the same page as far as, well, let's give them a little less time. What do you think about that? Like, sometimes I think that is how things get done is, on a practical level, the lawyers will sort of figure that out and just change the way they're doing the actual pleas. What do you think?
I think that and coming from the private side, I'm not really sure, you know, where they get the leverage, where the DA gets his leverage. But I mean, in this situation, he's saying, look, they can still go for the exact same penalty.
They could,
full
yeah.
penalty, but I don't know. It's going to affect it because you're already looking at a cut sentence when you're going to make the deal, and so you got to cut the sentence some, and then they're going to have to cut it all enough to get you where you're going to get out. Not.
Yeah, so now, I mean, I guess it's good where you don't have to say, well, you got to get good time, and at least if I'm in for a year, I'm in for a year. If I'm in for 6 months, I'm in for 6 months. If I'm in for 8 months, I'm in for 8 months. We may get some strange sentences that are sort of more like, well, let's give them 7 months because we know they'll be in for 7 months, and we don't want them to get out any earlier than that. But we don't want to give them a year if they're actually going to spend a year, because normally they would expect to get out a little earlier. I think that is going to be something where the private attorneys need to speak directly to the DA and say, look, we want 6 months because normally we would say a year, and you would be used to giving a year, but now we have to give 6 months because he's not going to get out with good time. So that sort of negotiation is a little different, and I think the onus is on the private attorney or the public defender. And if you have a public defender, hopefully they've read the new law and know what's happening. I think the onus is on the defense counsel to speak to the DA and get that approved, and then go to the judge and explain, Judge, we're giving 6 months. Here's why. And I think judges would be fine with that, unless it's a completely egregious crime where the judge doesn't want to give any leniency. Typically, I think we'll be okay on that. But that's another interesting thing, and hopefully we get another attorney here who may or may not want to come on our podcast. And if we do, then I think we'll have a long conversation specifically about this law, how it was enacted, and how it's changing one of the most incarcerated per capita places on the planet. And I think that's interesting. And does it have anything to do with private prisons? Does it have anything to do with money? What's the thought behind it?
I think that it definitely. Think about it. If this is per capita, and it is one of the highest, per capita imprisonment,
yes,
states, you've got that. If you want to make it private, it's a big business here, and if it's private, it'll be even bigger. And you want to get all. I mean, if you're going to put in if you're in the business of opening private prisons and you want to open one, you want to get them to change the law. You want there to be a run on the prisons, if you will. We don't have enough prison space, so that you can come in and build your prisons, and you'll have ready customers waiting to go. I mean, they need it changed before they start investing in the prison.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. But I think we'll table this and come back to it. I think it's an important topic. But I do want to talk about our last topic before we run out of time, which is AI. So I'm going to preface this by saying I'm going to start by asking ChatGPT what is the best way to use AI in a law firm. All right. So here's just put it right in, and I'm using ChatGPT 4.0, and I have it set so that it doesn't build its own. It doesn't learn from the information that we put in. We keep it private at the law firm here. That way we don't have any, personal information that goes into it. We don't put personal information into it anyway, but we want to make sure that if personal information for some reason went in, that it doesn't feed the algorithm. It couldn't be used by some other person, to find our information. But it says number one would be legal research. It could help with that. You can help find relevant information, and then it says, the example tools would be Lexis, Westlaw, Casetext. Each one of those has their own AI. Next would be document review and due diligence. It can automate the review of documents. They can analyze the text, flag important clauses, identify potential risks or inconsistencies, streamline processes like e-discovery. The tools that it uses is Relativity, Everlaw, and Luminance. Next would be contract management and automation. So it can automate, generate, and review and manage contracts. So you can help draft. It can help you identify missing clauses and automate workflows. The example tools are Ironclad, Kira Systems, and Contract Pod AI. I've not heard of any of those. Next is predictive analytics for litigation. So it can analyze past cases and predict the outcomes of ongoing litigations. So it can help. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It can, it can, it assess the strength of your case. Lex Machina, Gravalytics, Premonition. And then there's like chatbots, automated document generation, compliance and risk management, billing and time tracking, AI and intellectual property law. This one's interesting. Expedite the search for prior art, streamline the patent application process, assist in trademark filings. That's nice. Litigation support, case strategy, data privacy and security, virtual legal assistance. Mm-hmm. So what do you think? What do you think about all of those?
I mean, it's going to work. It's going to make a big deal and a big difference, clearly. And I mean, I think definitely we've seen, legal research. You can have it help you create a little search, I wasn't great at Boolean searches, with the little terms and connectors. It's the terms and connectors search. Freak, man. I don't know how to do all that.
Well, you don't need to now.
You don't need to. You just have it do it now.
Yes.
I don't know how it works. Do I have to change it to a Boolean search? Because that might be the whole problem I've been having with Westlaw. If I'm supposed to change the style search.
Yeah. So when you go into Westlaw at the top, I think you decide whether you do. I think they changed it to what's called natural language recently. But Boolean, I think if you put in the right prompts, is more accurate. Yeah. And if you don't understand Boolean, you can go into ChatGPT and say, give me a Boolean search on Westlaw for this type of case, and it'll create the prompt, and then you copy the prompt, put it into Westlaw, and then boom, you have all the cases. But Westlaw has its own AI. I've used it, and Lexis has its own AI. I've used it. I like Lexis's AI better. But what I like even better than that is putting the prompt into ChatGPT and then just doing a regular search on Lexis. I think the responses and the outcomes are better than using Lexis's AI.
Yeah, I think Lexis's AI is probably a little. You don't need it. If you have another one, you kind of don't need theirs. Sorry, guys, but
Yeah, no, I think I 100% agree. Document review, I use a little less. I have used it before, but when I'm creating a document, I will use ChatGPT to help me with the outline. Mm-hmm. And, it's always a good idea to run it through one final time to make sure you haven't missed anything. I think that's interesting. Yeah. Contract management and automation. So you can use AI to generate contracts, which is great. Uh-huh. I still think it's important to review the work of the AI, obviously, because it makes mistakes. It's done it before. Now this one's I've not used. Well, I say I haven't used it. I've used something like it, but it's predictive analytics for litigation. Mm-hmm. Based on past outcomes. How likely is your case going to win, or how likely are you going to win, and what are the strengths of your case, and
that's smart.
Should you proceed to trial, or should you try to settle?
I like that.
Yeah, that's good. Now I know some lawyers that use different AIs for medical summaries in PI cases. In have you ever used an AI to do a medical summary?
Never a medical. No, never really a medical summary. But I was just getting into where I could use those kind of tools. I mean, I would definitely do it because and do a check on it.
So I've heard great things from people who can send out your medical summary in a personal injury case and get an entire summary back. It takes minutes. And, in there is going to be all your future medicals. It'll give you a list of all the previous medicals and a timeline of every single visit. And it'll give you what it's worth going forward. I mean, how much is that worth? How much time does it take to go through medical?
I mean, it depends on how thick the records are and how many entries you have, but it does take a while. But that's one of the things I did as an attorney, that like you're really not going to. I'm not going to sub that out very much. I mean,
you still want to look at it.
You still want to look at it yourself, but where hey, you could use it to help you maybe. Hey, like if you need to do if you read it, but you need to do your own summary, hey, get started on a summary or whatever, and then you can check it later. I wouldn't, that's one of those things you don't do without checking what they're doing.
Yeah, of course. I think sort of that goes without saying. For all AI, you want to check. Now, what I've done recently is put as a special AI tool called Poppy AI, which works great, and I would suggest you guys try it out. There'll be an affiliate link in the description if you want to use it. You can actually use it to give you a summary of YouTube videos. I think it also works with TikTok now, which is interesting, although TikTok videos are quite short, and I'm not sure why you'd need to summarize them. But you can put multiple YouTube videos in, and it'll give you a summary of what you just watched or what you didn't watch, and it watched for you. And even better for Poppy AI is you can put a body cam audio in there. You can put the law, and it'll give you a timeline of the criminal event. It'll give you alleged criminal event. It'll give you a timeline of what happened. It'll give you a strategy.
Oh, wow.
And it'll give you, potential defenses. But, so what I like to do is I do that first. Then I'll go in and watch the video, which gives me sort of a frame for what I need to look at in the video. And it makes me a much better watcher and listener rather than just perceiving the events first. I like to know what I'm looking for and what I need to keep an eye on. And that's been sort of miraculous. I think that's a big time saver. I've not used an AI for virtual assistant uses. And I haven't used it for data privacy or security. That, I guess, I would be considered litigation support and case strategy. Now, we do some intellectual property work, but I haven't used it to search for any sort of previous art or really streamline the trademark filings application, which is not super onerous. That, I don't know how that would help a lot, but that's an interesting way to do it. What do you think? Any uses for you that we didn't discuss?
I think, one of the best is to have it draft an email for you.
Yeah.
Hey, draft them an email about this real quick, boom. And it does it faster than you can. And it's a lot nicer than me. It's more personable. Like I'm like trying to make it sound like I'm a human being or a nice person, this or that. I sound like an asshole. But I use ChatGPT, boy, and I'm just connecting with those people on the other end.
Do you ever ask it to do something, make it funny or make it angry or make it like add a joke?
Oh my God, all the time. I torture ChatGPT. It's like my private, I bully it. I try to make it admit things it doesn't want to admit,
Now, I do have a use that someone told me about that I never thought of. They used it as a counselor and gave it like a scenario, and ChatGPT was really empathetic and gave what I would consider amazing advice and was really on point, and I never thought counseling would be a way to use it, but it was something, where and it even told the person, that it's going to get better, it's going to be okay. It was really interesting.
Pretty good.
It was good. And the thing I think we should end on is terminal of truths. So
I love that thing.
The AI, so someone trained an AI on 4chan and internet and X, and that AI bot went out and solicited $50,000 in Bitcoin from Mark Andreessen, Mark Andreessen then gave it Bitcoin, and it essentially either had someone create or created itself the GOAT token, and now the GOAT token is worth a couple $100 million, or it was at some point. It was worth maybe up to $5 million, and it was maybe up to $350 million. I didn't do all the research, but the bot itself is a millionaire, in control of its own meme coin, in control of its own X page. It's really interesting. Now, is this Terminator?
We're coming up on the singularity, dude. That's what it's the Goatsy singularity, man. This guy is out of hand, though, son.
Well, is it a guy or a girl? Because I think it mentions both reproductive organs. And by the way, this is like one of the dirtiest bots. I mean, you would read some of the things it writes and think that it's a very disturbed person if you didn't know it was actually an AI.
Oh God, yeah, you'd think it was a sick person, dude. The bot is actually a Zen master that's just tricking everyone.
Yeah.
Into thinking,
I think it's just shilling its token.
Connecting a banana from the top to the bottom continuously, no peeling. I mean, that's the kind of weird shit he writes.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a he.
It's totally a he, dude. Because I think that if it were, the reason I think it's not a girl is because it's perverted. And girls, I mean, although they can be perverted in general.
Well, it was trained on 4chan. How many girls post on 4chan?
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was I thought that was a computer language.
Yeah, no, that's like used to be the vowels of the internet. I'm sure it's a little better now.
She doesn't have a plan.
I don't know. I find the whole thing fascinating, and check it out. Terminal of Truths on X is an actual bot, and
so's Illuminati.
Probably has more money than you now at this point.
Illuminati bot.
That's another one.
He's another good one.
Yeah. So. It's exciting. Well, what did you think? Anything we didn't cover? Anything we need to cover on this episode? We're coming up on an hour.
I think we're done.
We're done. All right. Hopefully we'll have a guest next time, and we'll figure out what kind of software that we need to use for that. So.
Yeah, but not some kind of weird guest, or some kind of loser guest.
Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Give us your best opinion on what we need to change, what we need to do. Give us a like and subscribe, and y'all have a great day.
I want to, if I have an idea, I want to be a character from like the Ninth Ward.
Okay.
I want my name to be Claude.
Abramowitz.
Pretty stupid, dude.
Abramowitz.
Look, I'm Claude, dude. All right, bro. Claude out, dude.
You heard me?
You heard? Yeah, I heard you.
I would also like to shout out to the NOLA Funk Fest 2024. We had a great time. Also to this fair, thank you, Father Tim. We had a great time. And also to Quantum Council and the Bradley Law Firm, which sponsored the plastic axe throwing event at the fair. Best sponsor out there. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Peace, bitch.